In their 70-year quest for perfection, Porsche have made some very significant cars. Hi, I'm Roger Bailey. Thank you so much for looking in. Few Porsches have been more significant than the legendary 911, obviously. Then there was the game-changing 928, the almost affordable Boxster. But make no mistake, no other Porsche has been more significant or more important for the German brand than this, the Porsche Cayenne. It was the 1990s when bosses at Porsche realised that in the changing world economy, just selling expensive sports cars simply wasn't going to do. To keep bringing in money, they had to make a decision. Either make their cars exotically expensive, go down the Ferrari route, or sell truckloads of cheaper cars. However, the real answer was to produce an SUV alongside the sports cars, make it a good one, sell lots of them, and in doing so generate a ton of new money. And so they gave us this lesson in technical brilliance. Profits were generated and the future of Porsche was secured. Make no mistake, without the Porsche Cayenne, there would have been no money to develop the 911, no Panamera, and no 918 Spider hypercar. So what's made this third generation Cayenne such a brilliant all-rounder? Well, as we've come to expect from Porsche, being the careful improving and meticulous fine-tuning of just about every bit.
It had to be you. It had to be you. I wandered around.
The first time I laid eyes on the third generation Cayenne was at this delightful launch event party thrown by Porsche Chester, and being previous customers, my wife and I were here by very kind invitation. Thanks again for this, guys. To me it was clear the new Cayenne had grown up to become handsome. It had been given some extensive high-tech upgrades. It has been massaged with improvements all over. Inside, I think they've smashed it. There's gorgeous piano black surfaces, a trio of display screens, and at the centre of it all is a high-definition widescreen that wouldn't look out of place in your living room. Beneath that and surrounding the drive selector is a glassy panel with illuminated icons rather than push buttons. Touch one and you get a little haptic buzz through your fingertip. This interior has evolved into a sumptuous, almost sci-fi experience. Oh, and try out this latest voice control with Alexa-like interpretation skills. Just press a button, tell it you're too cold, and it'll turn up the heating. The seats are similar to those in a 911 and they drop low, which helps you pretend you're driving a performance saloon, not a large Porsche. Rear passengers, even leggy ones, have plenty of room. And there's an extra 100 litres of boot space versus the outgoing model. The materials, quality and attention to detail are almost beyond reproach. The Cayenne has always been an SUV for people who prefer cars to lorries, especially those who have had a Cayman or a 911 before the kids arrived, and Porsche has stuck to its guns with this new one. It's not just good to drive for an SUV, it's good to drive full stop, and for this we can thank mechanical trickery, or at least a ton of new technology usually reserved for the sports cars. Specify rear wheel steering and the handling begins to be like a 911, so you can dive into corners with an urgency you simply don't expect from something this large. You begin to realise you can tackle sharp turns with a measured flick of the wheel rather than a hopeful throw-in. The new optional 3-chamber air suspension means there's a genuinely noticeable change between comfortable modes and sporty ones, not just in terms of body control, but in ride comfort on rough surfaces. So, how good is this sports car biased SUV off-road? Well, to find out, we turned once again to our friends at Porsche Chester, who very kindly took us along to a purpose-built off-road proving ground where we just jumped straight in. Among the various off-road settings, the Cayenne features Porsche Torque Vectoring Plus, which controls the rear diff. Air suspension raises things by 6 inches to increase the approach angles and the wading depth, and a very trick hill descent mode, which is activated for these very steep inclines. This really works. This is very impressive. In the trickier section of the course, where you can see the Cayenne's wheel articulation in the way which the SUV crawled across like a pendulum, it was genuinely impressive and a lot of fun to experience from inside the cabin. So, to answer my original question, how good is a Porsche Cayenne as an off-road vehicle? Well, the answer is simple. Very. Just trust me on this. So for me, the Cayenne remains the king of the driver-friendly SUVs. The new chassis tech and the reduced weight make it feel more like a performance saloon, to the extent you'd question why wouldn't you just buy a performance saloon, or indeed a performance estate. But when you remember it's also happy to drive across streams, through quarries and over fields, this car starts to make some real sense. It's hard not to walk away very impressed from this Cayenne. It goes, stops and steers better than any other premium SUV from any other manufacturer, and it's practical, properly built, and gives its occupants a warmly cosseting driving experience. So that just leaves me with a couple of very small questions about my time with this Cayenne. Number one, was there anything that disappointed me? Well, yes, on this occasion I couldn't keep the car, I had to give it back. And number two, should we be adding this car to our dream car garage perhaps? Well, if you ask me, I would say a most definite yes. So thanks again for looking in. I hope you can find the time to subscribe to the channel, and while doing so, maybe even press that little notification bell. Cheers.